Practical Talk Time. I'm your host, Usha Kumar. I read recently in an article in a medical journal that 2/3 of the world's population depends on alternative medicine for its health needs. There have been medical fields such as ancient Chinese medicine or Ayurveda and Unani of India, and then we have the American Indian medicine, Hawaiian medicine, and the like. More recently, I think, in the United States, alternative medicine has been gaining traction. And so to talk about fundamental medicine, I have my guest here, Nancy Guberti, who practices functional medicine and bionutrition. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I find that many people are seeking alternative medicines help, and your functional
medicine, yes.
Right? This is also an alternative medicine.
It is, because functional medicine basically provides insight to how your body's functioning. And conventional medicine really looks at how can we get rid of this illness. It doesn't get to the core root of the problem. So functional medicine offers non-invasive testing, and there's something called the organic acid test. My favorite lab is Great Plains Laboratory, and they will check 74 markers.
See, what I find is that alternative medicine and all of these other ancient medicines, they have a common factor. And what I find is they are all from plant-derived medicines that people used in order to maintain their health. And another common thing among these types of medical practitioners is that they actually prevent a lot of illnesses rather than try to just treat the symptoms as the allopathic medicine is trying to do. No doubt, scientific advancements, technology advancements have made the modern medicine very attractive in terms of healing broken bones or surgeries and the like. No doubt, they've done a great job. But then in terms of actually treating the medicines, treating the patients, they're not really curing anyone or preventing any illness, are they?
No, and basically, if they're giving you something, it's usually synthetic, and there are no tests to
So those
show.
are man-made chemicals?
Exactly.
Okay. And they're trying to mimic the plants?
Exactly. That's what they're doing, because then the pharmaceutical companies could take patents out on the man-made chemicals, but they really can't on the plants.
I see. Which is why some of the nutritional benefits of these plant-based items, they're not really touted because these companies, pharmaceutical companies, cannot make money on those, right?
Exactly.
I brought you here today, invited you to be my guest, mainly because I wanted to pick your brains on something very important. It's about children and adults having a lot of ADD, ADHD, ODD, and the like, and autism. And I believe next month, you said,
Yes.
is Autism Awareness Month.
Exactly.
Not next month,
In
it's
April.
April is Autism Awareness Month. So can you please tell us something about that and how what you practice helps that?
Yes. So there's been a huge increase with special needs children, and we're seeing this even what we call executive ADD, and that's with adults that have ADD. But for the children, if we talk about them, there's so many labels now. There are sensory integration disorder, which is basically when the kids are getting so much information from their senses and something goes wrong and it just gets overstimulated. And there's a biomedical cause for that. And we have to look at that. And most conventional medicine doesn't do that. They just, again, There could be synthetic chemicals that could be prescribed, but it's not balancing out the body. So there's the sensory integration. There's autism spectrum disorder, which it is a spectrum, and there's low-functioning autistic individuals and high-functioning like Asperger's. The low-functioning, we could be nonverbal. Then you have ADD, attention deficit disorder, attention hyperactivity disorder. You have apraxia, which is a speech issue. Then we have motor issues. We have processing issues. There's oppositional defiant disorder. So there's so many labels, number one.
I have this question. Have these things increased so much today, or it's just a matter of now at least having a label for it? It was always there, and now they're just giving an explanation to it. So what is it?
And that's a great question, right? So it has increased, no doubt. We cannot refute the statistics. Yes, there's been better diagnosis, but there are so many disorders that really were not around. I know when I was a child, you would have seen it. But if you go into a mainstream class nowadays, you could really count on one hand the kids that don't have any issues. So you go into a classroom and you say, okay, they have an attention issue. They're moving around too much. They're just defiant. They're this, they're that. So is there a commonality? And that's where functional medicine I highly recommend to parents that have a special needs child or a child that just doesn't fit in the box. And what you really want to do is partner with a practitioner who's going to look out of the box and say, why is this happening? Could it be a chemical imbalance of their adrenal system?
Isn't the regular medicine fixing this problem?
No.
So what are they doing, and what needs to be done?
I've seen children as young as 18 months old that have been put on Ritalin.
Why? 18 months?
18 months old, and they'll come in, they're on medicine, and then I've seen children in high school, I've seen adults in college, and even executives, and they're on meds.
Wait, you got me on giving Ritalin to 18-month-old child. So what, called for that?
So the child was the child was acting out. It actually was a girl. So usually we see this in boys. It's more prevalent in boys. But in this case, it was a girl, and the pediatrician had put the child on Ritalin.
Why? What was the problem with the child?
She was running around, and they said she can't focus and she can't learn because she's so hyper. And her speech was having issues, and that was his answer.
I see.
No
But
testing.
aren't children that age like that?
Well, some children are. If you have a boy and you go to the pediatrician, they're supposed to run certain tests now and check. Are they pointing? Are they giving you eye contact? Are they looking all around? When you call their name, do they seem like they're deaf? There's certain things we're supposed to check. And if they're not being checked and they say, oh, well, it's just a boy, girls talk faster than boys, everything's going to be okay. We're wasting valuable time. That's why early intervention is so important. Now, early intervention as far as academics and speech and OT and PT are more common. But why aren't we looking at the biomedical and the nutritional factors? Are the children eating balanced meals, or are they having too much sugar? Can we look into their adrenal system, their absorption, digestion? And I think that would be very important for these medical doctors to do, and for parents to get answers, because the information is out there. You just have to sort through it to find out. There's biomedical and nutritional interventions for children on the spectrum, for children who have ADD, hyperactivity, and there are studies that have been done and published in Journal of Neuroscience and Pediatrics as well that show dietary intervention and brain peptides.
So the type of help that you bring in has to do with helping people with their diets and also with the environment, right?
Yes. So again, if you want to find out and take the guesswork out, because you could have one parent that says, oh, I gave my child fish oils and they're so much more paying attention and focusing and in my world, and then someone will try it and it doesn't work for them. So are we talking about a boy or a girl? How much do they weigh? What do they eat? And the environment that they live in. So that's where I recommend functional medicine tests to find out what's going on with this individual and then get a customized regimen for them. So we want to look at the food, and we want to see what are they ingesting, and it should be a family affair. The parents should be eating this way as well, and then we want to look at the environment. Are there toxins in the environment? So Mount Sinai, several years ago, started, and it was going to be an 18-year study following children from the moment of conception all the way to 18 years, because they said something's going on. Asthma, allergies, autism, attention deficit disorder, and they believe that it's because of toxic levels. Is it from food? Is it from the environment? What is it from? Is it from the diesel from the bus? You know, that if you're idling and you're in there, or the bus driver's been idling for an hour, and then the children get in, all those fumes, they showed a correlation to asthma.
I know that there were some studies done way back, decades ago, that diesel fumes caused cancer. So they're basically carcinogenic, but we haven't done much about getting rid of those. I know some cities around the world have electric buses just to change this,
right,
to get rid of the diesel fumes. And I know in some cities, diesel trucks and buses are not allowed within city limits. You'll have to get off there, and other goods and services have to be transported in via other vehicles.
That's good.
That are not diesel.
They're trying to reduce the toxic load.
But I don't see that here in the U.S. I've seen that while traveling in other countries.
Right. The United States is, their rules and regulations aren't as strict as the European countries. So the European countries do not want genetically modified foods, but yet in the U.S. it's allowed, and that's where we have these big companies like Monsanto that are slowly but surely affecting all of our seeds and our crops. But over here in the U.S., what they did start, at least in New York, they had started several years ago to make schools be idle-free zones, meaning you couldn't idle your car and the buses couldn't be idled. So that was good. At least they started that.
I know California has stricter laws for the air.
Yes.
For clean air. And other places. And anyway, you can't just box your air in your state, because as we know, jet streams move everywhere, and air from one industrial town can very well go into another, a town that has all meadows.
Right. They said that the effects in Japan years ago went to San Francisco.
I see.
With the wind and the air and all that movement. So, we as a world have to be healthier and less toxic. And especially, for the children, you want to look at that and see, are there certain, you want to really be a detective with your child and say, does my child act differently or tantrum after they've eaten a certain food that could excite them? Or if they're in house where we're spraying Lysol and there's heavy perfumes and cologne and hairspray and all these toxins, do they rub their forehead and the eyes, because they could also have a sensitivity to chemicals? So we have to look at all of these things.
When we talk about children having all of these problems, sensory problems, and do doctors send their patients to you, or do parents come to you directly for this kind of medicine?
Yeah, it's nice because it's getting out there more. So I have several pediatric groups that send their special needs children, or children that they just don't know what's gone wrong with them, and they've tried their conventional lab work and it only gives them so much information. And then mostly from family to family, I know that your child's eating differently, or child seems so much calmer these days. did you put them on meds? And they're like, no, we changed the diet, we tried these natural supplements, we found out that there was a chemical imbalance, and that's how the word gets out.
I'm wondering, if this kind of medicine is going to be helpful for the general health of the public, what kind of clinical trials are being done for these? I mean, because they should be backed by those if it's going to be administered to people, right?
Well, the Autism Research Institute has a lot of studies on their website, and there are past studies that have been published in the pediatric journal as well as neuroscience. The neuroscience has several that look at the dietary intake and consideration, and they even have looked at, and the FDA has said, well, yeah, there could be a link between chemical dyes and ADD and ADHD. And there was a Dr. Feingold that did a lot of research on that as well. So I always say to parents, go in your pantry and look at what you're eating and what you're giving your child. And it's called mindful eating. So even before I were to eat something, I would say to myself, is this food going to be toxic to me? Is it going to make me tired? Is it going to be bad for my skin? It's going to go to all my problem areas? Or is it going to be nutritious? Is it going to give me energy? Is it going to give me mental clarity? Is it going to give me the get up and go? So now we want to think that way for our family and our child. What am I giving them? Am I feeding them before they go to school?
So we have to, what ingredients do we look for to avoid?
High fructose corn syrup, anything that says artificial dyes, artificial flavoring, artificial coloring, anything that says red dye number 5, yellow dye, any color dye, that's a carcinogenic, number one, and they're chemicals. So we don't want them, and that's really, it's bad for the brain.
And most processed foods have those.
Most processed foods have
because
them.
they want to have a consistent coloring.
Yes.
They want it to look good, and so
course.
they add all their yellows and the reds.
Exactly. So you want to look and you want to read labels, and you really want to understand what you're putting in your body.
What about preservatives? What's okay and what's not okay?
Well, that's where, you really have to call the company. So if it says maltodextrin, you're like, well, what's maltodextrin? Well, is it from corn? And is that corn genetically modified? Is it from rice? Does that rice have arsenic in it? So you want to know. Carrageen, you want to know Goya gum. So are they from bacteria? Is it from seaweed? Where is it from?
I see. Depending on the origin of that product,
exactly.
It can be different.
Like, for instance, vitamin C. If you look at vitamin C, you think it's, that's good for me, right? It must be from a fruit. But then you find out, no, they use corn, and it's probably genetically modified. So you have to really call the company. Think about whole food, wholesome food. Instead of having apple juice, eat the apple, eat the skin. Now you're getting
make your
fiber.
own juice, press it, and
Exactly.
use it. Yeah.
That's so much better. So you really want to look for clean food. You want to look for balance. You want to make sure you're balancing the diets. Do we have protein? Do we have vegetables? And vegetables aren't French fries. I want some green leafy vegetables,
But then we have problems with pesticide contamination, right?
Right. So
On
organic would
vegetables
be
and
the
fruits.
best. And we can buy organic cost effectively. So you can go to the stores. For instance, like Whole Foods has 365, their brand, of organic. So you could get organic broccoli cut up for $2.49 a bag. That's great. And you don't have to do anything but just steam it. So there are ways you want to get organic to reduce the pesticides and the toxic load as well, but you want to make sure that your child starts at a young age eating vegetables, and good ones. And then lean proteins. Make sure the proteins are not filled with antibiotics or growth hormones.
I'm wondering, can't the regular medical doctors help with that, or really find out what is really wrong?
I wish they
tell them?
would. And I wish they could, but unfortunately, the American Medical Association, in their medical schools, nutrition is not required.
I see.
So it would be great if they do. It's the conventional doctors that then go to the Institute of Functional Medicine and learn about nutrition and supplements and really continue their education.
I see.
But there are some conventional doctors, so pediatricians, when they put a child on an antibiotic, they'll say, don't forget to put them on a probiotic to make sure we don't get rid of all the good and bad. So they're coming, those pediatricians are coming over, which is nice.
So have you found, how long have you been practicing?
I've been practicing for 15 years.
15 years. And what major changes have you seen in your field?
Well, there is more of awareness, but not in mainstream media. And that's where, these shows, Practical Talk, are the ones that are so important, because you're getting the information out there and educating the parents and the families so they could help their kids. So that's really good. The internet gives a lot of information, but you have to be able to sort through it.
Is what you're doing also part of holistic medicine? What do you call that? Or is that
It depends, because again, holistic is if we talk about the whole person, so if you come in to a dermatologist and you say I have acne, well, are we looking at what are you eating? How's your hormone levels? Can you break down fats, or do you have a fatty acid oxidation issue? That would be holistic, right? But if you're just saying, okay, take this and put this on your skin and not look at the inside of the person, then that's conventional. So it's more a complementary alternative, but we should all work together.
In terms of what you're doing, what kind of an education do you need to do that?
So you need your undergraduate, and then you would need your master's.
In what area?
In nutrition, food chemistry. There's a lot of universities now, like Cornell, that are offering a lot of science medicine, nutrition-based medicine, biology. So you really want to understand how the body operates. And you also want to understand what food turns into, like an apple turns into malic acid.
So this particular education talks about the food chemistry, the biology and the chemistry of what we put in the body, and also the chemistry that's going on in the body.
Exactly.
But then you don't really learn physiology and other things like the regular doctors, right?
Right, you don't
it's
go...
It's not like a real medical practice.
No, and you don't dissect and all of that.
No, because I think people should be aware of that,
Definitely.
What is your background, really? I did read somewhere, but you can tell me if that's right, for this functional medicine, generally you look at how the system, gastroenteric system works, right? And then also you study about the hormonal system, endocrinal.
Right, you want to look at the adrenal system, the liver detoxification, the kidney detoxification, the Krebs cycle, the GI tract, nutritional markers, amino acids, bone health. You want to look at all of that.
I know that Americans are, at least from the ads that I see, it seems that every other person has acid indigestion or gas. They're always taking something, Pepsid, this, that, whatever medicines. But then it's really due to something else, right?
Right, so usually digestive enzymes. We're born into the world with two sets of enzymes, and one is metabolic and one is digestion. So you want to look at what food group is this individual not able to digest, and then supplement with those digestive enzymes unless they're eating a raw diet.
So what are the two types of enzymes?
There's, if they can't break down protein, they would need protease. If they can't break down peptides, it's peptidase. Amylase is for carbohydrates. Lipase is for fats. So we really want to see how is the digestion working and which enzyme. A lot of people understand lactase, that
So
one.
if a person has some inflammation in the stomach constantly, every time they eat something, but they're not quite sure what food caused it. So how will they go about finding out?
There is a 24-hour digestion test, so they could do that. That's a urine test. There's also a GI comprehensive stool analysis test that could really get to looking at not only digestion, but the flora contents, the good bacteria, the bad bacteria, candida overgrowth, and getting that in balance through food as well as supplements.
And just they can modify food and that's all they would, and then they would need some supplements?
Yeah, it depends where their levels are at. So you always want to see, are you mild, moderate, or are you advanced?
Have you treated a lot of children with sensory problems with
Yes.
ADD? And what kind of a difference have you seen among
So I've seen a
those
pattern
children?
with these children, and usually their adrenal systems are very imbalanced. They are missing the dopamine and the serotonin, the norepinephrine and the epinephrine, and they're very high in excitotoxins, so that throws them off. And then their digestion could be affected, or they could have candida overgrowth. They're usually deficient in B6 and pantothenic acid and vitamin C as well.
Oh, I see. And so what do you tell them to do?
Depending on how old, how many pounds they weigh, if they're a boy or a girl, then I customize regimens of food as well as supplements just to get them in balance, and then we wean them off of those if need be and if we can. I always say, let's get the child to where you want them to go. Let's get them progressing positively. And we've never seen anyone regress, which is really good because we're actually pinpointing on what they need, as opposed to doing a generic approach.
I'm wondering if adults sometimes have it, and you find it happening more in certain families than others. So could this be genetic?
There could be a genetic vulnerability where and that's why I always want to know the biological parents, how's their health? Do they have anxiety? Do they have digestion issues? And let's hear what they experienced. And then perhaps there's a vulnerability and something's triggering that. And that's
so
where
it could be something genetic to begin with.
A vulnerability.
Maybe, okay.
Definitely.
Something, the genetic thing that they could be prone to something like this. And then when the environmental and food toxins
pushes
hit,
them.
then it gets pushed over the limit.
Exactly.
How can one detoxify? I don't want to go with some of these, unscrupulous people that sell products saying, you can detoxify with this and that. That can also be harmful, right?
Yes.
We only have a minute.
Okay, yes, they could be harmful. So like Epsom salts are great in bath, that helps you detoxify. Cleaning up your diet helps you detoxify. Drinking more water helps you detoxify. Natural
Clean water.
ways.
So we need to first test your water.
Exactly. Definitely. Natural ways, as opposed to, I do not agree with the aggressive ways at all.
And hopefully we'll have healthier children and adults with that.
Exactly.
And I hope mainstream medicine, kind of works with the alternative or ancient wisdom medicine.
Definitely.
Right? In taking care of people's health. Thank you very much, Nancy.
Well,
it was
thank
such a
you.
pleasure having you here.
Thank
and
you.
I hope you'll come back.
Love
and
to.
we can talk about other programs.
Thank you.
For all of you watching, I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.